What if I told you that a healthy diet and a fat loss diet are two completely different things? Because they are. And understanding this is the difference between finally getting results or wondering why your scale went up even after you were good the entire week. As someone who spent 30 years believing that following diet rules perfectly meant automatic fat loss, I just kept losing and regaining the same 30 pounds. I'd eat all of the right foods, everything keto, Weight Watchers, or whatever diet I was following approved of, but months later, somehow I was heavier and even more confused than when I started. This is typically the point of the video where some guru gives you a long list of foods that you need to avoid, but then cheers you up by saying things like, vegetables? You don't need vegetables. In fact, vegetables are making you fat. But what if I told you that eating unlimited bacon is the real key to fat loss? But yeah, you won't hear me spewing any of that crap, because that's the kind of crap that left me struggling for decades. But that still doesn't mean that just eating healthy will get you to your goal, even if you show that dumb weight loss guru who's boss by eating all of the vegetables. That's because just eating healthy doesn't mean you'll lose fat. And this is where most women stay stuck. So the good news, you don't have to cut out your favorite carbs or completely swear off sugar. And you can even eat more of this and less of this if that's what you prefer, all while working towards your fat loss goals. The bad news, you gotta track everything you put into your mouth. And my views just tanked. Because no one, absolutely no one, wants to hear that you need to take 5 seconds to pull out a food scale, another 20 seconds to zero it out, and 20 more seconds to manually type in what you're getting ready to eat. Because obviously it is so much easier cutting out every last ounce of joy from your life if that means you don't need to spend 26 seconds logging your meal. But even if you choose swapping joy for 78 seconds of your day, that still doesn't mean you'll lose weight. Because plenty of dieters overeat on their keto, paleo, or even intermittent fasting plans. Wait, how does someone overeat while fasting? You literally spend the entire day not eating. Trust me, it happens way more often than you'd think. And then you're told to just trust the process, even if your scale hasn't moved in an entire year. The simple truth, you need to be in a consistent calorie deficit. And if you need help figuring out what that consistent deficit is for you, check the pinned comment. I can personalize your plan so you finally get results. Because it doesn't matter which extreme diet you're following. If you're still eating too many calories for your activity level, then you will gain weight. Back when I was into everything keto, I ran challenges so other women could feel the joy of shoveling in fat bombs by the fistful while still losing weight. So many women came into the challenges frustrated and confused because they were following all of the strict rules but still weren't losing. They were convinced that something was wrong with them, that keto doesn't work, or their broken hormones were keeping them stuck. But once they hopped into the challenge, suddenly they were dropping weight week after week. Here's why. I calculated each challenger's macros, which includes carbs, fat, protein, and their specific calorie range. Suddenly, the challengers realized that shoving in fat bombs by the fistful wasn't actually that helpful, because once they hit their calorie deficit, boom, keto worked. So even though they were eating healthy keto foods before the challenge, most were still just eating too much of them. But this isn't just a keto problem. The same issue happens with every healthy diet approach. Even if you only eat salads, if you're still eating to the point where you feel completely satisfied, then you're probably not in a calorie deficit. Let's look at how most women build their healthy salads. You start with lettuce, which is about 50 calories. Add some protein, since it's important. That adds another 120 calories. Throw on some cheese for protein, 150 calories if you're not measuring. Sprinkle some nuts for healthy fats, 200 calories. And no one wants a dry salad. Plus, all of the big gurus emphasize healthy fats, so pour some olive oil on top. But if you're pouring without paying attention, that's easily another 250 calories. Sure, your salad tastes great and it fills you up, but at what cost? Oh right, an 800 calorie cost. Which for most women, that is half of your daily deficit in a salad. But watch what happens when you move beyond just eating healthy and instead you aim to eat in a calorie deficit, since that's what's required for fat loss. Remove the cheese and add more chicken, which gives you more protein for less calories. Get rid of the nuts because even though they can be part of a healthy diet, they're too calorie dense to easily fit into most fat loss plans. And when you pour the dressing, you have to pay attention because keeping any oil in your diet adds calories fast. You can still keep it because, again, we are humans and not rabbits. You just have to measure and track your pour. This salad, where you aim for a calorie deficit instead of just adding as many healthy ingredients that fit, this adds up to a 300 calorie high protein meal that will keep you full just as long. But this one helps you lose fat because you just cut 500 calories from lunch. And even if it doesn't keep you just as full, that's actually not a bad thing. Because here's the truth that no one wants to hear. When you're actually in a calorie deficit, your body will let you know. It sends hunger signals because your body doesn't want to lose fat. In fact, its main objective is to keep you fat, since that's what would have kept you alive back when famines were more common. So if you're following a healthy diet without considering calories and you feel completely satisfied with absolutely zero hunger signals, you're giving your body enough energy to sustain your current weight. But here's what most people don't understand about what being in a real calorie deficit actually feels like. When you're in a moderate calorie deficit, you'll probably feel at least slightly hungry. Not constant ravenous hunger, but there will be times where you feel like you could eat. But if you want to lose fat, that doesn't mean that you should eat. Even though feeling hungry is really the worst part of any diet, that slight hunger is your body saying, hey, give me more food so we can stay happy and plump. Because it doesn't want to give up its precious fat stores. This is why you just can't eat until you feel completely satisfied at every meal if fat loss is your goal. You have to be strategic about how much you're eating, even if you swear that everything you eat is clean. Yes, you should eat enough so you never feel ravenously hungry. But if you're running to the kitchen every time you feel the slightest twinge of hunger, that's not helping you lose fat, especially when it leads to exceeding your calorie deficit. But here's where things start to get confusing, which is the part that trips so many women up. Feeling those slight hunger twinges throughout the day doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a deficit. You could still feel hungry even if you're eating at maintenance calories or above if you're not getting enough nutrients in the foods you choose. Your body needs specific nutrients every day in order to feel satisfied. Let's say your calorie deficit is 2,000 calories like mine. If you're eating 2,000 calories of lean cuisines with a side of pretzels, you will feel extreme hunger even if you're just following a moderate deficit. If you're not eating enough whole foods that are filled with protein, fiber, and the nutrients that your body needs to survive, or you're not getting enough volume because you think protein bars and shakes are all you really need, you will feel too hungry to stick to your calorie deficit. This is the reason so many women think that they're eating to lose weight when they're actually not. You think since you're sticking to diet-friendly foods and that you do feel some hunger, that you must be in a calorie deficit. In reality, continuing to rely on too many packaged foods will never give your body the right satisfaction signals, even if the package says otherwise. Think of it like this. About 75% of your grocery store is filled with processed and packaged foods. Not so coincidentally, around 75% of Americans are either overweight or obese. If you want to be part of the 25% who maintain a healthy weight, then you need to shop from the 25% of the store that helps you achieve that goal. The good news is there's actually a way to solve both problems at the same time. To make your fat loss diet easy, you want the best of both worlds. Which means you need to prioritize nutrient-dense foods that are higher in volume, protein, and fiber, while measuring and logging what you eat to make sure that you're actually in a calorie deficit. So yes, you still need to choose healthy foods that keep you fuller longer on fewer calories. But you still have to pay attention to how much you're eating. The magic happens when you combine the right foods with the right portions. That's when you can feel as satisfied as possible while still being in a deficit that gets you to your goal. I know none of this is as exciting as being told that you can eat unlimited amounts of any food as long as it's clean. But if you're tired of following all of the rules while your scale just laughs at you and says, nice try, you need to understand that fat loss requires both quality and quantity. The good news? Once you get this balance right, you'll finally get the results that you have been working so hard for. If all of this sounds great, but you're still not sure how to make a calorie deficit that works for you, watch this video next. I'll show you my 6-step system that took me from yo-yo dieter to losing 50 pounds in my 40s. And more importantly, finally keeping it off.